Pretty imaginative.
To delivery one moment.
Good evening. I'm Ernie Hartley, curator of the Towe Ford Museum. Glad to have Mr. Sands here. We're going to have a wonderful organ program tonight. You're going to see a real professional performance. You're going to have a good time. And at the end, you'll be just as good a friend of Jack Moelmann as we are. So join us now, and we'll have a good time together.
Only about 15 minutes before we start our concert tonight. We're about 5-10 minutes away from showtime.
You are all here, and thank you all for coming. The house lights are now down. The stage lights are up. I hear the organ blower filling the pipes full of life-giving air to these 1,100 pipes before you. I think we're ready to begin. I want to say just a few thank yous first before the program begins. And our first thank you must go to Prairie Creek Winery, who comes from Somerset, California. That's up in El Dorado County. They have donated the wine for your enjoyment this evening, and we want to thank them very much for their help. I might add that as you go to their tasting room, you can enjoy their collection of antique and classic automobiles. They have an eclectic collection that has many cars of special interest. So please see those cars when you visit Prairie Creek Wineries. Thank you, folks, very much. Last night, we were very pleased to have Johnson's Winery from Healdsburg here. They're also special friends because Tom and Gail Johnson have in their tasting room a mighty Wurlitzer. No, I'm sorry, it's not a mighty Wurlitzer. It's a Robert Morgan. Oh, forgive me. Now, you know, the Robert Morgan folks and the Wurlitzer folks are like the Chevy and Ford people. So need I say more? But we're very grateful to have both of these wineries that have helped us out last night and tonight. I also want to thank Photo and Sound here in Sacramento, who has donated a nice big screen for your enjoyment tonight, and this sound system that is professional and adequate for this size of a group. One of these days we'll have our own sound system, but Photo and Sound donated this for our use tonight, so we want to thank them as well. And Earl Godfrey is our dear friend. Thirdly, we want to give recognition to Jay Hyde of SH2A Architects in Sacramento. Jay Hyde and his firm have done the architectural plans that have built the structure that houses the mighty Wurlitzer before you, and the stage and the special events area. And we are very grateful to Jay for his enormous help to our museum. So, thanks, Jay. We have new lighting, too, thanks to a private donation from Wendell Jacob. And we now have 8 spotlights that help us become more professional and help you enjoy the show so much more. It makes this stage come alive. Thank you, Wendell. We are a volunteer organization and a membership organization. And the California Vehicle Foundation that runs the Towe Ford Museum just could not work, could not operate, would be closed by now if it weren't for our wonderful, wonderful staff of volunteers. They've been all over the museum tonight providing services to you and making things function. So for the museum volunteers, a big thank you. The biggest thank you tonight, however, goes to the American Theatre Organ Society. It is that organization, through a working relationship with the California Vehicle Foundation and the Towe Ford Museum, that has brought this wonderful instrument to our museum. And I've asked Doug Fisk, who is the executive director of the American Theatre Organ Society, to explain to you this evening how and why the organ is here. So, Doug Fisk.
Thank you, Ernie, and I'm glad to be here to say a few words to you, but I must correct Ernie. It's a Robert Morton, not a Robert Morgan. You just hurt some of these people out here terribly with that. We got to get you educated. This is a Wurlitzer. Do you know that? And this is the organ that we have here. I think this is, in itself, is a beautiful piece of functional art. And I just think it's a beautiful thing to see. The American Theatre Organ Society is a worldwide organization. Actually, we have members in 19 countries. And in the course of their evolvement into what was important to them, they decided that they would like to see if they could put an organ in some place other than a theater, or it may appeal to people that weren't going just to hear the organ, or that things that went with that. And we looked over the United States to try to find the kind of location that would tie in with other audiences interested in the nostalgic parts of life and where it might appeal to others. We looked at Birmingham, Alabama, Detroit, Michigan, Indianapolis, and other places like that. But there were some appeals down here that eventually brought us to say, we will take a look at this in much more detail. And that is the presence, of course, of the Railroad Museum and the potential additional Railroad Museum, the Automobile Museum here, and so we started here. In fact, the first memo that I wrote to the board in regard to this was in 1986. It takes a while to get these projects done. But out of it then, the next thing, the executive committee came out here to look this over a couple of years after that. And at that time, your organist tonight was president of the national organization. And so he's been here the first time since about 1987 or something like that to look this over. And we progressed from there, first thinking in terms of a separate building for a headquarters and that type of thing, into what we're in here in this special events area. And our interest is going to see how people respond to it, what they think of it, and how this particular venue uses it. It's an experiment for us, and it's a major thing for the national organization. We have members, as I say, all over the world, and everybody knows this is being done, and they're always going to be interested in just how it's progressing, what it all means. And if any of you would like to, of course, be members of the American Theatre Organ Society and contribute a little to all this, why, we have applications here. You can always become one of those. So that's a little of the background of why we're here, what it is, and I hope that you enjoy it. And Ernie, I'll turn it back to you. What's that last name now? I can't get it straight.
That is a Robert Morton. Thanks, Doug, for that little lesson. I've been learning quite a bit about organs, but as you see, I haven't taken the course yet, and I'm learning little by little. One of the people that has taught me the most about the organ is Dave Marino. Now, Dave was hired as the supervisor for the restoration and installation of this Wurlitzer pipe organ into the Towe Ford Museum. We've been enjoying Dave's company here for the last year and a half as he has meticulously, painstakingly, with the greatest of detail, with the greatest of professional restorationship, every little detail of this organ. The leather, as you might guess, was installed for this organ in the 20s. This is a 1920s instrument. We have vehicles on the stage and throughout the museum that are that old and older and not so old, but they wear out after a while. And so every piece of leather had to be replaced. Most of the woodwork had to be refinished. And Dave and his wonderful band of volunteers, primarily from the Sierra chapter of the American Theatre Organ Society, that's the local chapter here, have done this restoration. And I've asked Dave Marino to speak to you for a little bit to tell you about that monumental effort and anything else he'd like to say. He's earned his dues, and so he can say whatever he chooses. Dave Marino, please welcome him.
Well, good evening, and welcome to the mighty Wurlitzer weekend here at the Towe Ford Museum. Before I do one thing, I'd like to give personal acknowledgement to my volunteer crew that really put this thing together very professionally, which is amazing. With the people who worked or did any phase of the organ, please stand. I'd like to have you acknowledged right now. There's a lot of you here. There we go. We got wood finishers and electrical people. Thank you. I also have a friend that'd like to say hello to everybody. This is an actual organ pipe. It's up here, and the reason why he's letting you know something, after the concert tonight, you're welcome to come back to the stage area, and I'll be taking people in very small groups to show them the shops that we've got back there that we're working on the organ, and we have a big blower room out behind the museum that puts air into the organ. And I'll show a few people that are daring that would like to see a glimpse of the pipe chambers that are here. And that'll give you a glimpse of what's been really going on. Also, I'd like to explain one thing, too. There's a lot of young people that I like to see involved with these things because a lot of the people in our group are retired and are further in the age group. And I like to see a lot of young people get involved. So, you know, anybody has any interest in the organ, please see us after the program. There's a young organist competition for theater organ, which is a nationwide effort being done by ATOS. And there's also a group being started now to learn how to work on these. This is a very American heritage, the theater organ here in the United States. I'm not going to say too much more other than see us after the program. And I want you to really enjoy the program. You're in for a great treat with this artist. As we said last night, he's the Victor Borga of the organ world. So I didn't want to take any fire out of your speech in case Ernie might forget. Anyway, please come back and see us some more and support the organ and the museum. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. We did quite a bit of investigation to research a suitable organist that would provide the dignity, the entertainment, the professionalism that would really show off this organ. And the name Jack Moelmann kept coming up. And, well, Jack lives back in St. Louis, and, well, how could our little museum afford to bring an important organist from St. Louis? But we contacted Jack, and through his benevolence and interest, he's here tonight. And as Dave said, you're in for a real treat. Jack has had a musical career since he was 8 years old. He's been in the Air Force for the last 26 years. He retired just last year from Scott Air Force Base near St. Louis with the rank of full colonel. So you can see he has attained heights in that area. You'll hear tonight some of his other accomplishments. We've enjoyed Jack this weekend so enormously. He's been a member of the American Theatre Organ Society for about 25 years. He's been the national president from 1985 to 1988, and today he still serves on that board of directors. In fact, he helped make the decision for the American Theatre Organ Society sponsorship of this organ in this place. After tonight, you're going to like Jack Moelmann just as much as we do. And so, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Jack Moelmann, the Victor Morgan of the organ world.
Not that kind of place, wait a minute.
Hi, Mom.